Welcome to another episode of the Breaking into Tech Sales podcast. I'm so excited to have Behrens with us. Bree has been honestly, a really good SDR manager friend to me over the past few months and years. And she's here to talk to us about how you should be trying to improve and better your skills and learn new strategies and techniques to break into tech sales. Bree, welcome. Can you
Yeah.
introduce yourself? Why should we listen to you? Who are you?
Yeah. Thanks, Jack. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat about SDRs today. So I've been in sales development for a little over 3 years, almost 3.5 years now. Started at Muckrack as an outbound SDR, was promoted to a manager, and I've been on the hiring team for almost 3 years. So I've interviewed a lot of candidates, helped hire over 30 folks at the company. So,
Wow. Okay. Ballpark, how many people do you think you've interviewed?
oh my gosh, maybe upwards of 100.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty
Yeah.
intense. Okay. Very cool. So, that being said, you are experienced, you've done plenty of interviews, and everyone listening to this they're people that want to get the offer. They want to be an SDR.
Yeah.
So, Bree, what are the top three questions you'd like to ask SDR candidates?
Yeah. So I think about this in terms of qualities, right? So I'm looking for someone who's system minded. I want to look at folks that are able to take this overall goal of booking meetings and break it down into actionable tasks that they can start to kind of repeat and then replicate. So the question for that is, can you describe a time when you had to map out a complex process or workflow? And then
Mm,
the second part to that is, how did you approach it? And then what kind of tools or strategies did you use to ensure that everything was executed effectively? So it's a little bit of a
okay.
longer question, but it's unrestricted. So we'll dive into that one. But the next one is, they're kind of two traits that are paired together. So I'm looking for ownership and creativity.
Mm,
So the questions for those are, can you tell me about a time when your success was dependent on taking the initiative in the situation? What happened and what was the outcome? And there's also a variation to that where it's when you had to think outside the box to be successful. Um, which I think those that can kind of uncover that ownership and creativity together. So I want to see where the candidate takes that. And then the third question, it's kind of specific to Muckrack, but you can kind of put your company name in there.
mm,
But at Muckrack, we're passionate about the work we do on the SDR team. We would love to hear what excites you about the SDR role and why you believe you'll love this work.
good. Good. Okay. So, my immediate feedback is none of those you can fluff. Those
Right.
are very specific questions. I've actually never heard any of those, which kind of intimidates me. Like going into an interview with you, Brie, I'd be like, oh crap, I did not
Yeah.
prepare for those questions. But I think these are beautiful questions that make sure for you as the manager, candidates aren't just like fluffing their way through the interview. You have to be specific.
100%. And we will hire a lot of folks that don't even have sales development experience. And I'm a testament to that. I did not have sales dev experience coming in. And so it's not restricted to something that has to do with sales development. Like, we hire a lot of new grads. So tell us about something like a project that you had, a capstone project or something like that, where you can, take those transferable skills and really highlight them.
Okay, that's beautiful. So let's go back to the first one because the first one had some sub questions.
Yeah.
So first question again, how would you say it in an interview?
Yeah. So I would just say, the question is, describe a time when you had to map out a complex process or workflow.
Okay.
Kind of pause there, let that part sink in. And
Mhm.
then, how did you approach it? And what were the tools and strategies that you used to ensure that everything was executed effectively?
Nice. Okay. So already what I like about the question is as the SDR or the candidate, you have to be able to communicate well because you're asking like three things and you want three answers within one question, which is it's difficult, right? But you
Yeah.
should be able to communicate well enough to put answers to each thing. So what are some good answers? Like what do you like hearing in these examples?
Yeah. So with Muckrack specifically, we often hire a lot of folks that have that PR experience because Muckrack is a PR software. So I'm looking for something that's transferable. And a lot of those folks have experience with pitching the media, which is really similar to pitching your personas, right? So, I'm looking for them to say hey, I had this project that I worked on. This was the goal. And then these are the steps that I executed to make sure that everything was accounted for. And so I'm really looking for someone who can think strategically, because that's really what sales dev is, right? Like you're taking this goal of like, I've got to go book these meetings. Where do I even start? So I want to see that they're able to at least pinpoint, okay, this is where I can start. And then this is how I can map out my workflow from there.
Absolutely. And do you accept answers that are from like maybe college or from earlier in other roles? Or are you really looking for them to like SDRify the answer?
Yeah, I'm really open to any kind of answer. And I'm also looking for passion with that answer, right? I'm looking for someone that, you can tell they're enthusiastic about the experience that they're talking about. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm open to anything, honestly. And I'm really intrigued by someone who can actually take something from, a college career and make that relevant to sales development, because that was my experience. I came
Mm,
really
okay.
fresh out of college and I was able to take everything that I had done over the past, honestly, it took me like 7 years to work through
Mm,
school, and I worked my
mm,
way through school. So to me, like I don't want to say I'm partial, but I'm really intrigued by those folks too that can take that kind of experience and make that relevant and make that transferable.
yeah, absolutely. So as you're talking, I'm kind of like in my head, how would I answer this?
Yeah.
I feel like I would go something along the lines of, and this isn't a professional answer, this is more personal because I think
Thinking,
more personal is more, everyone can access that. So for me, it would be like, well, I had this fitness goal, and then I get specific with you about what the fitness goal was. And then
okay,
I kind of break down step by step. Here are the actions, the disciplines, the routines. And then here's like the feedback I got as I went through the process, the learnings. And here's how I plan on applying that same mindset to the
okay,
SDR role. Would that be a sufficient answer for you?
100%. That's
Ok
exactly what I'm looking for. I'm just looking that you can take that mindset and then really start to kind of apply that to sales development. So even if you're not 100% sure, like what success looks like as a sales development rep, I think your answer to this question is really going to show, like, do you have that mindset that we can coach to and we can train you?
Yeah, yeah. I think there's a hidden gem in here too, in that I teach my clients whenever they ask you a question in your response, at the end of your response, you should always future pace yourself as if you were an SDR. Meaning, if you ask me about failure, don't just tell the story about failure and that's it. Talk about how you're going to apply what you learned as an SDR. So, as an SDR, I know I'm going to face failure and rejection every day. So, I'm going to use what I learned in this experience to help me overcome that. And you're future pacing yourself. So, Bree, when you and I are looking at these candidates, we're like picturing them already as SDRs.
100%. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. So, did we cover the sub questions then, kind of in that answer already?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, tell me about this process, this workflow, this overall task that you had. And then, like you said, to that gym reference, like, how did I map this out and make sure that I was accounting for everything?
Beautiful. Okay, that's a really good question. Y'all, if you're an interviewer, you should steal that because you cannot BS your way through that answer.
Yeah.
Um,
Sure.
all right, what's the next question, and what does that sound like when you ask it in an interview?
Yeah. So the next question, I've used this question a lot. So it goes, tell me about a time when your success was dependent on taking the initiative in the situation.
Mm,
Or, like I said, the variation to that is, tell me about a time when you had to think outside the box to be successful. What happened and what was the outcome? And
okay.
that's
Okay.
exactly how we'll ask it in the interview.
And what are you looking for there? Like, what skill or quality are you going for?
It's similar to the other question where I'm open to anything, but I'm really looking for someone that can take ownership. I'm looking for
Mm,
ownership and creativity, right?
okay.
Because with sales development, oftentimes in remote roles too, like you need to be autonomous. You need to be able to take control over this job, take the ownership
Yeah.
over your own quota, right? Because this is what your job is dependent on. So I'm looking for someone that can step up and take that kind of ownership, take that
Mm,
initiative. And I'm also looking for creativity, because what I've seen from like our top performing reps is the folks that are the most creative, they're always thinking of new ways to do the job. They're always like 5 steps ahead of everyone else. They're the
yeah.
ones overperforming. And so if you're waiting to be told what the next creative thing is to do, like you're already behind.
1,000%. I think the one of the cringiest things for me being a manager is when I have reps who are just reactive. Like they're just waiting to be told what to do.
Exactly.
Something bad is happening. They're not pacing on quota. And I have to come to them and ask them, hey, what's going on? What's your plan? It's
Yeah.
like, why, why do you like being babysat? Like, A very easy way to hack SDR role is whatever your manager is asking you, start just proactively giving it to them. So start sending your manager a daily end of day update of what you're working on, what went well,
Just
what
being
didn't. Like you're going to get promoted in a couple months if you do that stuff.
100%. I have someone on my team right now will send me, end of week evals. I absolutely love it because
Yeah.
she keeps me updated on what went well, like what is she working on and like what is she planning to improve for the next week. And I just think it's just
Yeah.
a fabulous way to keep your manager in the loop, right? And
She'll
just
be a VP of sales in like 5 years with that attitude. Yeah.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
no doubt. Yeah.
Okay. So what does a good answer sound like? What does a bad answer sound like here?
So a good answer sounds like taking a situation that you can explain, right? Like I said, it could be anything because we do hire a lot of folks that don't have this previous experience. So kind of showcasing times when you've taken ownership, like maybe you stepped up and taken, ownership over a project that, a team was working on. Oftentimes, folks will tell us about like earned media projects they had to work on for their clients, right? Like stepping up and taking control over maybe problems that were going on internally or, something they saw going wrong and they wanted to fix it. Um,
Mm,
so showcasing things like that. A bad answer is something that's really vague. So I can't say it's a situational thing, but it's more like, I want to hear the details, like answer the
yeah.
question to the full capacity that you can. I think, if you have to be prompted to give details that, I want to know more about your ownership and you're not really actively speaking to that, like to me, that's not a great answer. Like I want to
Yeah.
just you're able to fully answer the question and be proud of it too. Like be proud, bring that energy.
Yeah, yeah. So two thoughts here. One is that I'm a big stickler of an SDR resume having a leadership and achievements section on it, where
Okay.
you're highlighting like, hey, I'm not just some average Joe who's just floated through life. Here's where I've led. Here's where I've really like gotten honored and recognized for things. And if you don't have that, it's not the end of the world. Like just persevere. That's fine. But
Okay.
the second thing here is being able to specifically with like achievements, it's all about taking ownership of those, and to your point, being proud of them. And I think when you're in interviews as an SDR, you almost don't wanna brag, like, that's the mindset, "I don't wanna brag," but
Yeah.
Bree doesn't know anything about you. Like, she doesn't know your experience or your background, so if you don't speak highly of yourself, no one else is going to.
Exactly. Exactly. I know nothing about this candidate except maybe what I saw on their resume and their LinkedIn. Like I
Yeah,
want them to brag about themselves, like because they need to be proud of the work that they've done,
yeah,
So yeah, I
1000%.
love someone that comes in with that really strong, like, this is why I'm great for this role.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So if I were to answer that, and I'm putting myself as if I was an SDR, like entry level, I'd probably say something like, yeah, so in my, health administration course, we had this big end of year project and I unfortunately was put in the group where no one wanted to work on it. And that's kind of a chuckle moment, right? Everyone's been there. So I had the option of either being one of those people or stepping up and actually going to contend for my grade. And so what I ended up doing was XYZ. And then here's how I was able to take ownership over that situation. And here are the results. Like, is that a decent enough answer for you?
Yeah, for sure. And I think sometimes like these questions that I have here, they can be super loaded with a couple of different parts, right? So I think it's
Sure.
even okay if you forget something to the question. If you forget that last part, like pause and just say, hey, like, what did I forget? Did I forget something? Am I missing something? Like,
Yes.
I think that's really important, right? Because I want to make sure that I'm answering the question for what the manager is looking for. So there's no
100%. Yeah.
shame in pausing and just being like, hey, I want to make sure I answered that question. Was there anything that I missed there or anything I could further clarify on that?
You nailed that because that honestly, I think again, when you come into these interviews as an SDR, maybe you're young in your career, there's so much pressure of like, I have to be perfect. No, Bree and I want to see you openly processing and like okay with us giving you feedback. Cause guess what? You're gonna suck when you start as an SDR. So you have to be okay with that, but be open and proactively seeking that feedback.
Totally. 100%.
Awesome. Okay. Third question here. How does it sound when you ask it in an interview?
Yeah. So it reads like this. At Muthrack, we're passionate about the work that we do on the SDR team. We would love to hear what excites you about the SDR role and why you believe you'll love this work.
Mm, okay. Okay.
So this
So
I think it obviously lets me know, what does this person know about MuckRack and what do
Yeah.
they know about sales development, right? Like I want to know that you have an understanding of what you're going to be expected to do in the role if you're
Mm,
hired, right? Um, and I think this question is interesting too, especially when it's positioned to folks that have that PR experience and they're coming in and they want to sell this PR software. It just kind of lets us know, like, what do you understand about like the transferable skills between what you're doing now and like what you want to do at MuckRack?
yeah. Okay. Okay. So if I were to answer this question, or I guess how I coach my clients to answer, whenever a company is asking you about them, we have this format we follow where it's basically like list all of the fun facts first.
Mhm.
So, hey, you guys were founded in this year. You're a Series X. You've raised X million in the last X years. You're led right now by CEO X, and you just kind of list that out as like, yeah, fun facts, fun facts, fun facts. But
Mhm.
really, why I'm really excited to be here today is one, your product, and then we go through product is persona, pain, value prop. So I understand you guys are helping PR people. I
Yep.
actually don't know what Muckrack does, so sorry, but you're helping persona with this challenge by
Yeah.
doing value prop. And that right there, you're just flexing how well you know the company. But then the transition is, but really it's the people as well. You guys have hired really well over there, from what I understand. And I want to be surrounded by some of the best.
Yeah. And it's really easy to do that kind of research because MuckRack on LinkedIn is always posting blog posts like day in the life of like this employee, or
Yeah.
there's a lot of posting and tagging going on with MuckRack. So it's really easy to just like surf through LinkedIn and kind of pull some things. We have case studies. There's so much research that you can do just to kind of, at least prepare yourself with
Yeah.
a little bit about the company, right? I'm not expecting you to be an expert coming into the interview, but I want to know that you've at least taken the time to understand like what the company does and what you'll be expected to do as an SDR.
Yeah, another freebie here for the listeners. There's a ChatGPT model called perplexity.ai. It's like a research model, it's free. And what you should do for your interviews is just map out like the 7 research questions you want and just copy paste it for each company. It literally takes you 5 minutes before each interview to then know, okay, they were founded here, they're led by this person, here's what they do. So you can
Mhm.
make it easy for yourself as an interview.
Yeah, that's a great tip. That's awesome.
Yeah, keep it easy. Absolutely. And then I'm assuming bad answers here, again, going to be vague, right?
Yeah, for sure. The best interviews I've ever had with folks are the ones that are really thorough. Not long-winded, right? Because I think there's a balance between going overboard with answering questions and taking forever, but being concise, but being thorough.
Mhm.
Um, the ones where I've been on the fence are the ones where, like, it is really vague. They're not fully answering the questions, or they might be missing some parts and not pausing just to make sure that they've hit on every base that they should with that question.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think from my conversations with job seekers,
Is a
a lot of what I hear right now is, oh, it's a numbers game. You just got to keep going. And sure, some of that is true. Like the SDR role, some of it is a numbers game. You've got to hit a certain amount of volume a day, but you don't do 300 calls to bad data. You do like 60 calls to good data. Same thing here, where it's like, it is a numbers game, but you are 6 months into your job search with hundreds of applications and 2 interviews. Like, that's not a numbers game. So, what you
right.
should do is what Bree's saying, like, just slow down a little bit, do the research because I mean, Bree, what percent of interviews are amazing versus like, eh? What would you say?
Oh, it's like top 10% is probably amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. 1 out of every 10 people that I've interviewed has been like, oh, yeah, you're legit. But that means 9 people came in here and were average. So it doesn't take much to set yourself apart. You just got to
It
slow down a little bit and do research.
Yeah, too, and I think also what sets folks apart for me is just the energy, the passion, showcase your personality to, like, do I wanna work with you? Like, show me why I would wanna work with you, why I'd want you on my team.
Yeah, 1000%. Because when you're cold calling, your energy is going to be a challenge to keep up as you're talking to people, you're getting hung up on. And it's the same thing. Like, we want to see you that you're a vibrant person, that you can carry energy. Because if you don't do that with me, how am I going to know you're going to do that on our team and then on the phones?
100%.
Cool.
Yeah, so
So,
like a
Yeah.
package. It's a package thing that I'm looking for. I'm looking for great experience. I'm really looking for transferable skills and then that energy, you know?
Yeah, I think the big key word for me from learning from you today is like you cannot be vague because you're just ratting yourself out right away that you really don't know what you're doing.
Okay.
And so for the people that are on their job search still, they're not having success. What advice would you give them to actually landing an SDR role?
Yeah, I have 3 things. So the first thing, I know you coach too in Sword, right? Do the job to get the job.
Mhm.
Um, Again, I think there's a balance here. I think that when you're interviewing, recognize that hiring managers are probably interviewing a lot of folks. So don't overdo it. Don't bombard their inbox. But I think it's really important to get a touch point out, either via email, phone, voicemail, LinkedIn. Personally, I like to get touch points on LinkedIn. It puts a face to the name. And I prefer communication that way. So I think get a touch point out there along with submitting your cover letter, your resume.
Yeah, absolutely. You had
Yeah.
2 others?
I do. So for me, like I said, from my experience, like I came from a place where I was working my way through school. I had just gotten my degree in PR. I didn't have that sales dev experience, but I was able to highlight transferable skills and showcase why my experience would be a good fit for the role. And so I would say the same thing to everyone else. It's not crucial that you have that sales dev experience. We hire a lot of rock stars that don't have that background. They come in and they're the type of person that, will hit the ground running and do whatever it takes to be successful in the role. And so showcase why your experience is a great fit for that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Agree.
Yeah. And then I'll say from more of a personal standpoint, my third recommendation is to pray about it. Um, I am huge into prayer and faith, and I think that God has plans for all of us.
Yeah.
So great plans, right? His ways are higher than ours. And so I will always recommend praying about it, asking God to open the right door for you, close the doors that are not right for you, right? Because I want to be where
Amen.
He's me to be. So, and He's always faithful to do that. So that is my third recommendation.
Amen. Probably the most important one, Jeremiah 29:11. And if you're someone who's
No,
like,
Lord, I can't
y
believe you just said that. That's like my verse for
there
sure.
you go. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's basically like God has plans to prosper you, not to harm you, to give you a hope in a future. And yeah,
Mhm.
if you're someone who's like, you've never grown up in church or whatever, that's cool. Like
Yeah.
Jesus wasn't here for the religious people. He was here for like people like you and me. So yeah, just pray about it. I love that, Brie.
Yeah. So that's my advice. And I think sales dev is just a great opportunity to get into. Love tech
Yeah.
sales. And I think that everyone can do it, right? If you are motivated, like you can do this.
You
So
can do it.
you can do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Bree, thank you so much. Guys, if you need help getting into tech sales, I literally have a free step-by-step guide written by an SDR leader, myself, showing you how to do exactly what Bree and I just talked about. That link will be all over my social. So feel free to find that. And you can find Bree on LinkedIn. She's amazing. Bree, thank you for hanging out with us today.
Thanks, Jack. I appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.